Hey guys, what's going on? Let's check out this. This is currently my Turbo E34. There's a really long story with this car, but I'll probably save that story for a different video. It's going to be really hard to tell from this video, but this car is semi-restored. We did a complete full paint job on it. Glass out, it was fully disassembled, everything was R&I'd. And then we gloss blacked a lot of stuff like the handles and the trim. It's a really beautiful car. I just did that, so let's ignore that. But today, I'm going to show you guys what we're trying to accomplish with this car. I have fallen in love with this thing. It is my friend's fault. And I'm going to show you guys, if you're thinking about building an E34 or any M50 car, just some things that I'm learning as I'm going here. And maybe it'll help somebody who wants to do one of these cars. It seems like these cars are kind of getting popular a little bit. This thing wasn't on the dyno before. It doesn't matter what it made. Right now, my plan is we're going to swap this intake manifold, the throttle body. Fuel rail is going to get replaced. We're going to eliminate some things in this area. We're going to twin fuel pump it in the tank. And what were we doing after that? I think that's it. That's a 62 or a 66 millimeter Bog Warner. It's a stock. It's a built bottom end, so it's got turbo tough rods and CP pistons, King bearings, ARP studs. Everything else is stock. This is an M50 motor, which is a non-Vanos. This is the non-Vanos version, which I like. So my entire life, I have been into Nissans. This is my shell. This is my 280Z shell, and I have another car that's finished, and I need to transfer everything from there to here. That's my 911 Turbo. That's manual. This is like a 900 wheel horsepower car, and the bumper's off because we took a airbag sensor from this car to put it on a car that we had for sale. Everything right now that is my personal vehicle, which would be these three, are all like in this disarray of needing major work. And to top it off, here's one of my favorite jet skis, and it's sitting here without an engine. All right, so I've decided that I'm trying to finish as much stuff as possible, and then if I have toys, that they just need to be ready. But anyways, let's talk about this intake manifold upgrade and what we're going to do today. Okay, so if you don't know, I already, this is all kind of unbolted already, but the stock throttle body goes up right here, okay? And then from there, we had this kind of piped in like that, all right? That was piped in over there, and that would go over the throttle body. And then we had this giant fitting to the hose that goes to the idle air control, and I'm going to show you that right now. So I'm going to show you what we're going to be doing actually, and how many things we're going to be removing off this thing. This car made like, I don't remember, I think it made like 500 wheel on wastegate without a boost, without turning boost up. So let me remove some of the stuff. Let me kind of show you guys some things that's wrong with the M50, and or some things not wrong, but you can correct, and we'll see if we can make some things better. All right, so the intake manifold gets removed. I left the fuel rail kind of hanging there. So let me show you a couple things. All right, this is right here. This is the hose that was connected to the intercooler pipe pre-throttle body, and then it bypasses your throttle body and it goes into your intake manifold. Okay, we are getting rid of all of this, and let me show you one flaw that I can't believe. So a lot of the guys, when you're building these things, this manifold underneath, so for that idle air control, that's this barb right here. Okay, now this is an aftermarket piece right here, all right? But normally if you didn't get the aftermarket piece, there would not be like a bolt there. And if you don't get that piece, what happens is under boost, it'll just blow it out. Because this thing is literally just like, it's designed for vacuum only, okay? So we are getting rid of this intake manifold, and we are installing this one. Now, underneath here, so underneath here, it's kind of the same thing. It actually it actually had this port. And I don't know why these aftermarket ones, what we did is I bought a bung and I had a welder weld it in, because we're not using push. You know, if we were even going to use this again, I would get a threaded fitting with a threaded barb. We're not using the push clamps, but we are going to delete this. So for now, I need to get some normal MPT plugs, some like recessed short ones. But for now, we're going to use this just to kind of mock stuff up and test it. And this intake manifold's got provisions. This is for the temp sensor right here. Yep. So we'll transfer that over. Okay. That's just going to go in here like that. And then we have a couple of vacuum ports. All right. So we're going to be. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to get rid of this whole idle air thing, and we're just going to. We're not even using this throttle body anymore either. So this intake manifold came with this throttle body. Yeah, it came with this throttle body. And there's a, if you see, there's a screw right here. And we're just going to crack the throttle open with the screw. And we'll set the RPM at like 900 with the throttle. And that's it. We're not going to use the idle air control valve. Don't need it. I'm kind of like, less is more. I don't want stuff that we don't need over here. I don't need anything that might cause possible new issues. I don't need anything that causes boost leaks. Like, who wants to run this hose into there and then later you're chasing boost leaks? So, and then we kind of had this block that was on top of the manifold, and this was feeding, you know, the wastegate, the map sensor to the link ECU, and then your brake booster. But these are all just, you know, basic vacuum line connections. We're going to get rid of this idle air control valve. All right, and then on top of that, this pipe, there's a hose that goes right here, the heater hose connection, okay? This heater hose connection goes from here, and it goes into the throttle body. And well, initially, my friend capped it right here, but we're gonna get rid of the coolant lines that goes to the throttle body. We just don't need it, okay? So what we're gonna do is, I bought this piece. So the idea was, that's why I'm leaking coolant, is because I thought I drained everything, but I didn't. The idea was cut the hose here, cut the hose here, cut it here, and just make a 1T and get rid of this, get rid of the throttle body feed line over here. Only thing is that I really thought it was going to be a 1-inch hose, but it turns out this really nice pipe is too big. And for now, temporarily, we are going to have to use some Home Depot racing because this barb is 3/4 inch. So if you are going to make a fitting, you need a 3/4 inch diameter. This, you could see how this is much bigger. It just fully goes inside this fitting. So nice pipe, but we're not going to use this. So we're going to use this temporarily also, just to kind of mock some stuff up for now. I just want to get the car started and running with the new manifold and go through some things. So let's get that done, and let's see what this all is going to look like. All right, guys, let me show you the general plan here, what it's going to look like. So I cut out the factory T block here that had a double T. We got rid of the throttle body, and that's kind of what it's looking like. I'll show you everything we removed. In the meantime, if you're ever curious on how a very effective way to run your oil feed line on these cars, if you look right here, this is the threads where the factory oil pressure center would be. I don't remember these bolt size. I built this car, we set this up like many years back, so I don't know if this is a, you know, M12 or M14 or even an M10, but you can get a banjo with a male fitting, okay, and then you can get a banjo bolt that threads in, and the back of this bolt there's a 1/8 NPT, and then we used an elbow, a 1/8 male to female, to install the autometer sender. So all of this is done without even you don't have to tap anything, no drilling. Just, you know, if you're kind of creative with fittings, you know, there's a line here. What is this? What sensor is this for? I don't know. you can kind of see, so the banjo fitting is right here, and then the banjo bolt is right here, elbow, autometer, oil pressure sender, that's in the car. I think I cleaned this all up as much as I want to. We do have to remove this bracket. This is going in the garbage. We're not going to be keeping this, and we'll probably remove the dipstick off of it. But for now, at least, let me show you everything that we're getting rid of. All right, we're not using this. This used to be the fitting for the idle air control valve. The idle air motor is not going back in. These are the factory fuel lines. I'll make another video. We're getting rid of the factory fuel lines. Throttle body's obviously off. And look at this. I mean, not going super crazy with this car. You know, I'd like to make maybe 500, 550 wheel on E85, maybe on like 20 pounds of boost. You know, and then we might crank it up to 35, 40 pounds of boost for a high boost map. So maybe the car makes like 500 wheel low, 700 high, something like that. But look at the comparison. And these are not like, sorry if there's not a lot of light. Let me get into some light. We got a ton of cool stuff here. So if you're new here, what we do is we rebuild cars and we sell them. This is that's a manual 5 Blackwing, manual 4 Blackwing. There's a manual 4 Blackwing. There's 2 6-speed Chevy SS's here. That 911 turbo up there is manual that I've had forever. But anyways, look at the size difference. I mean, this is wild. Okay. The camera doesn't even do justice, and I'm trying to figure out why there's even tape on here. I don't know who did that. It wasn't me. This whole thing can comfortably go inside. Look how much more room. So we kind of got to figure out what we got to transfer over. I'm sure the TPMS isn't going to be a problem. And then I kind of just got to figure out the bell crank setup on how we can use the factory linkage and the factory cable. But so far, that's where we're at. Let me keep going. Let's see how it comes out. All right, guys, here it is mocked up, and I ran into a snag here. It looks like definitely the factory throttle cable is not going to work, and I'm going to have to order some kind of universal throttle cable and see what I can get to work. This just isn't going to reach no matter what I do. It's barely reaching the pulley, and we're going to need quite a bit of pull. There's some travel, so there's a bracket here. But anyways, getting the piping lined up, you know, putting the blow-off valve re-welded on the new pipe that's going to be here somewhere, none of that's really a concern of mine. Throwing this intake manifold on. We're not using that fuel rail. There's the other fuel rail that we're going to bolt up. I'm not concerned about that. I'm still waiting on a fuel pressure regulator. And basically at this point we need to figure out the throttle cable, hook up some piping, install the fuel pressure regulator. We're running new fuel lines to this thing, and then I will do a part 2 on what we did for a fuel pump setup. I kind of dropped in a, I'll pull it out later, but I dropped in a double pump. There's a double pump in there, but this is a single feed. This is the return, and I'll do a part 2 on the fuel setup. But for now, if anybody's ever done this on an E36 or E34, I'm not a super big BMW guy. I don't know this kind of stuff off the top of my head. If anybody knows of any throttle cable solutions, let me know. But this is looking really good so far. I can't wait to remove the factory loom box, put the coils on, and you know, we probably have to get that valve cover re-powder coated. I don't know what happened to it. Oh, this is just... So really, it's going to be a pretty nice engine bay. We have a new aluminum radiator. But right now, the only thing I don't have a solution for is we got to relocate our dipstick. And we have to figure out the throttle cable. So if you know anything about a throttle cable, I'm all ears for ideas. In the meantime, stay tuned for part 2 on this. Let me see what I'm going to figure out on this throttle cable.